From just a 1% market share in the 1950s, Marlboro has become the world's largest cigarette brand of all time, worth an estimated $58.4 billion by 2022. Marlboro had the largest market share of 42% in 2009. In a survey of the most valuable global brands in 2022, the Marlboro brand ranked 39th of all. The value of the cigarette brand increased by 2% over the previous year. Marlboro was introduced by Philip Morris back in 1924. Philip Morris, the giant cigarette maker, produces 700 billion cigarettes yearly. Their machines are designed to make 20,000 cigarettes per minute. They have launched hundreds of their brands, providing different flavors internationally. It is a fact that over 20% of people in the globe smoke tobacco. Smoking tobacco kills 8 million people each year, out of which almost 7 million people died due to direct tobacco smoking, and the remaining from secondhand smoking. Back in 1964, when the US government declared that smoking causes cancer, the future of the $8 billion cigarette industry was in danger within a day. While other businesses suffered a decline in revenue, one company miraculously rose from having a 1% market share to ranking as the fourth largest cigarette brand in the world in less than a year. This cancer report and the prohibition of television commercials for cigarettes permanently were meant to kill the cigarette business effectively. Instead, it helped Marlboro grow into a $58 billion brand. Here the question is, how did Marlboro become so big against all odds? What makes the Marlboro brand so unique and best-selling? And how did they make Marlboro a worldwide popular brand among young people, despite facing many problems? Let's explore Marlboro's history and survival in detail. Philip Morris Company first launched the Marlboro in 1924. The company marketed itself as a filtered cigarette brand for ladies. It was named Marlboro after the location of the company's first factory in Great Marlborough Street, London. In the 1920s, when ladies' cigarette smoking in public places was banned and they were forced to smoke in their homes, Philip Morris initiated its brand Marlboro, mainly for ladies, to create hype in the market. The advertising emphasized and specifically targeted the stylish yet strong and bold girls as smokers. In this advertisement, it was also showcased how the ivory tips would safeguard the lipstick traces that the women would be concerned about. Its famous taglines were "mild as May" and "red tips to match your pretty red lips." Back then, it was a small ladies' cigarette brand, and that's why men were not attracted to it at all. It was considered that these Marlboro filtered cigarettes are only made for ladies, so no man dared to touch Marlboro. Over time, Marlboro wanted to make their cigarettes equally famous among men as well, because it was the need of the hour to sustain and excel in this business. But it persisted as a feminine brand for almost 3 decades until 1954, when the circumstances suddenly changed. By that time in the 1950s, it had been reported by several surgeons in the US that smoking causes lung cancer. This report impacted very badly on the tobacco industry and was supposed to kill their businesses. Some brands denied these reports to defend themselves, and some tried to justify their cigarettes, while the whole future of the cigarette industry was at stake. Do you know how Marlboro survived as a small cigarette brand in these circumstances? How it changed its main perception from a feminine cigarette brand to the worldwide most-selling brand? Despite these cancer-causing reports, in 1954, Philip Morris introduced a new Marlboro blend into the filter market, as the main argument supported that filtering cigarettes were safer than non-filtered. Their main idea was to attract male smokers because health-conscious men would prefer their filtered cigarettes, considering them safe as compared to non-filtered cigarettes. It was more flavorful, stronger, filtered, and cork-tipped, all appealing to male smokers. At that time, they didn't focus on justifying smoking and showcasing the features of their brand. Rather, they worked hard on its unique marketing. They used the most iconic strategy of all time for marketing their product and proved to be a game changer in the history of Marlboro. For its marketing and advertisement, Philip Morris picked the Leo Burnett Company of Chicago as their new commercial partner to reintroduce this brand of cigarette. Leo Burnett was a relatively modest advertising company back then. Leo met with Philip Morris executives to present their very first Marlboro advertisement, which had been produced on Leo's farm in less than 24 hours. In this ad, they introduced a perfect character in the commercial named The Marlboro Man, who symbolized all the man aspired to be. The iconic Marlboro Man was a cowboy with an ideal physique, and the commercial portrayed him as the pinnacle of manhood. He symbolized masculinity and freedom since he was strong, kind, bold, and fashionable. He described a lifestyle, not a product. He portrayed himself as a heroic figure, while the cigarette clip was only 10 seconds into the entire commercial. They didn't focus on marketing their cigarettes, but rather tried to create an image of the Marlboro Man in people's minds. In a world full of complications and frustrations of people, Marlboro was a true representation of calmness, chill-vibed, pressure-free, and simply an independent American. He portrayed his healthy lifestyle as well as using filtered Marlboro cigarettes. That is why he was an idol, and both men and women were attracted to him. Not only this, the whole advertisement appeared to have all the elements of a big concept, appealing to the majority of male smokers, with the heroic figure of a Marlboro Man and the eye-catching new packaging of cigarettes. So this ad gained instantly a huge success. This advertisement changed Marlboro from a feminine brand to the worldwide one. Lifestyle marketing, sponsorships, sampling, and merchandise were the main initiatives taken by Marlboro that contributed to its success. Americans were very inspired by Marlboro Man, and seeing this, they started to buy Marlboro cigarettes, and ultimately their sales started to rise. In less than 30 days, Marlboro outperformed every other brand in the greater New York region. Even though Philip Morris was the smallest business in the cigarette market at the time, it achieved significant success in such a short period that it overtook all other brands. Sales increased from 18 million cigarettes in 1954 to 6 billion in 1955 to more than 20 billion in 1957, when Marlboro sold 3 times as many cigarettes in a day as it did in the entire year of 1954. It all happened as a result of growing public recognition and acceptance of the Marlboro Men in society. The campaign changed several times in the late 1950s, from Where There's a Man, There's Marlboro, in 1957 to the Settle Back series, in which our Marlboro men could be seen relaxing and enjoying their cigarettes. Even athletes like Paul were involved in commercials at one point, and within just a few years, the Marlboro Man became successful to establish his main idea, what he stood for. Millions of smokers were drawn to cigarettes, inspired by the Marlboro Man because it delivers the goods on flavor, according to him. And since the product delivered on that promise, Marlboro was on its way to becoming the biggest success tale in the history of tobacco and lifestyle marketing. Back then, every smoker thought of himself as a Marlboro Man enjoying his world. So in 1963, Leo felt the need to provide the Marlboro Man a home, one that was bigger and more expansive, and would be known as Marlboro Country. The campaign was completed finally after the creation of Marlboro Country for a cowboy, who gained popularity from being a Marlboro Man. Marlboro Country was created as a world full of nature and shown to the people through commercials. This environment was just as natural and theatrical as he was. In light of this, he gained even more credibility and heroism. Every little step took part in Marlboro advertisements to increase their growth regularly. After the creation of this Marlboro Country, they gained average growth of 10% annually. When cigarette advertising was outlawed from television in 1971, many different cigarette brands suffered, because television had been the main distribution channel for the majority of cigarettes, including Marlboro, before the Prohibition. Despite this ban, once again, it showed how intense and persistent the Marlboro concept was, which survived to maintain its structure. However, the Marlboro Man and Marlboro Country were so well known at that time that it was possible to make the move from broadcast to print and outdoor advertising without any major issues. In these print media advertisements, they created a series of striking portraits and expansive landscapes that immediately took the place of those catchy ads on TV. Marlboro was now a component of the United States economy and Americans' needs, as everyone wants to grow their business to take it to the heights. Similarly, Philip Morris built a strong foundation upon which they could expand and extend their business to take advantage of changing consumer tastes and attitudes. They extended their business with various new launches from time to time. Therefore, to emphasize the menthol's advantages of a cool, fresh, smooth smoke. Full-flavor Marlboro Menthol was introduced in 1966 in a king-size softbox, using Marlboro country photography of a greener, lusher nature. In 1967, the Longhorns, later called Marlboro Hundreds, a brand new product with a gold-red roof shape that is longer, fuller, and more flavorful, was introduced in the market. In the early 1970s, due to customer interest in tar and nicotine content, full-flavor demand increased in the market. Considering the demands of customers, Marlboro launched its most famous brand, Marlboro Lights, a low-tar partner for the flavor-oriented cigarette. With the launch of Marlboro Lights, the brand's personality evolved into a softer, more delicate image while still utilizing the well-known same motifs of the roof, the cowboy, and the country. During this period, the brand experienced significant growth. In 1975, Marlboro surpassed Winston to take the top position in the U.S. market, and by 1982, Marlboro Lights had become the most popular low-tar cigarettes. In the U.S., a court ruling in 2006 banned cigarette companies from using the words mild, ultra, or similar. As a result, Marlboro Lights changed its name to the Marlboro Gold Pack. In 2013, Marlboro's packaging was changed and introduced Marlboro 2.0 in the market. Later, around 2017, further changes were made by introducing a smart seal to keep stored cigarettes fresher for longer. Marlboro is constantly striving to maintain its integrity by making various quality changes from time to time. Marketing, advertisement, and promotions are the backbones of every business. It can be done directly by playing television commercials, advertising in magazines, or indirectly by various sponsorships and media reporting their events. After banning cigarette advertising on television, the Marlboro Company began its indirect advertising through sports sponsorships and events, mostly using Formula One racing for decades, and then Ferrari, with barcode designs on Formula One cars. Using tobacco products can cause several serious, lifelong diseases like lung cancer, heart disorders, diabetes, and respiratory infections. While smoking is no longer the greatest cause of mortality in the United States, it still claims 1,300 lives per day. Between 80% and 90% of lung cancer deaths in the U.S. are attributed to cigarette smoking. CDC reports say that smokers often pass away 10 years earlier than non-smokers. In the United States, smoking has an annual economic cost of more than $300 billion. Each year, the U.S. spends about $225 billion on adult medical care connected to smoking. But still, the smoking tobacco sector is expected to generate revenue of $59 billion in 2023. Despite its harmful effects, the tobacco market is expected to grow by 4% annually. Globally, China is expected to generate the highest revenue of almost $13 billion from tobacco smoking in 2023. Hope you like this informative video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel Fortune Richers. Thanks for watching.